This conference will now be recorded.
Hey guys, welcome to software testing online training from techtrainersonline.com. In today's session, we will talk about what is software testing and objectives of software testing, and as well as we will talk about software development lifecycle. We generally call it as SDLC and their phases. So before going to start about today's topic, let's understand about the trainer. So trainer myself, Ashok Reddy, having 13 plus years of IT industry experience as a software testing, including the automation and as well as the manual testing. So apart from that, I also have 4 plus years of online training experience, and which is a combination of manual testing and as well as the automation testing as well. So in techtrainersonline.com, we always have the trainers who is having, more than 10 plus years of IT real-time experience, so that we can give the best of the training to the participants who are is going to learn, right? So let's talk about today's topic. What is software testing and objectives of software testing? So software testing. So before moving into software testing, let's try to understand what is testing, right? So do you guys think that the testing is applicable only for software industry? Answer is no. So the testing is applicable for every industry before they are releasing their product to the market, which is nothing but to the end users, whoever is going to use it. So before making it available to the end user, every organization wanted to make sure that whatever the project that is being developed by them is working as expected. Let's take an example of automobile car industry, right? So any car that is coming on the road for selling to the customer to use it, so there are a lot of testing they would generally do to make sure, like, the steering is working and the brake is working. So whatever the feature that car is supposed to have, all those features would have been thoroughly tested before giving it to the using to the real-time users in the market, right? Similarly in software, so every organization will have to go through the testing before making it readily available to the end users to use it, right? So what is software testing basically? So as we just understand, right? So if you take an example of automobile, which I was mentioning, a car, right? So when I say steering should work, when I say the brake should work, so when we talk about the steering, how it should work, there are expectations how steering should be behaved. When I move it to the left side, the wheel should move to the left side. When I turn the wheel into the steering into the right side, the wheel should be turned into the right side. So similarly, any product that we are going to develop in software, we generally have expected result. Like, what is expected results? Whatever the example we just have taken for the car steering, you just move it to left side, all the wheels should be turned into the left side. You turn it to the right side, the wheel should be turned into the right side. Similarly, when you develop a product, and every product will have its own expected features, right? Let's take an example, the simple example of ATM machine, right? So we have a software in it, and the expectations is whenever the user inserts in a card, right? And the first thing is it should read the card, and the second expectation is immediately it should prompt to enter the PIN number. And then there are two expectations here when you are asking to enter the PIN. One is enter correct PIN and see that what are the expectations if you enter the correct PIN. It is expected that the ATM machine should show you the number of menu options that are available, right? And if you enter the wrong PIN, it should display an error message stating that the PIN number you have entered is incorrect. This is what is being expected. So as a part of software testing, what we have to do, we have to make sure that the system, whatever is being developed, is working as expected or not. So we just discussed what do you mean by as expected, right? So we talked about two examples. One is the car steering, and another one is the ATM machine, what it should do when you guys are entering it. So at the same time, software testing is also used for, finding the defect. So we don't want we don't want to deliver a system which is having a lot of bugs in it, right? A lot of defects in it. So as a tester, what software testing is expected is you need to find a defect. So there could be, as just an example which I was mentioning, I enter wrong PIN number after inserting the ATM card. It should throw me an error message stating that the PIN number is wrong. Instead, it displayed me the menu and it is allowing me to withdraw the money as well. So there is a defect in it, right? So as a tester, we have to make sure we have to find a defect in a product before it is getting released to the end users, right? At the same time, we also need to prevent the defect from the product, right? So let's list out here, right? So software testing is a process to make sure the system is working as expected. So what do you mean by as expected? So for every product that we are getting in, we always have some expected results to it, right? So we just have to make sure that it is working as expected. In other words, to say that the system which is developed is meeting the client requirement, right? So we can just say that the system which is developed is meeting the client requirements or not. That's what we have to validate as part of the testing team, right? So what are we trying to consider in testing? So the first point is um, make sure system is working as expected. So as expected, we just discussed, for everything there is an expected result. Like the first thing, and I insert an ATM card, the expected result is it should read my card, right? And then it should ask me to enter the PIN number. So these are the things what I mean to say that expected, right? And the second thing is to find the defect. So we wanted to find the defect in the system, right? And the third point is prevent we wanted to prevent the defects. What do you mean by prevent the defect? So let's take an example. You guys are using ATM card of some bank called XYZ, and the ATM card, you guys go ahead and use it, and it is having a lot of issues, a lot of defects in it, right? So do you think that customer would prefer to continue with bank XYZ? No. So as a tester, what we wanted to do is we wanted to prevent the defects. We wanted to prevent the defects from the end user. So who is the end user? Like say you are the customer who are having an account with a bank called XYZ, and you get a lot of defects in it. Obviously, you will not be anymore with XYZ bank. You just move over to, you know, another bank itself. So we don't want end users, whoever is going to use my system, we don't want the end user should be getting any defects in it, right? And another thing is, what are we trying to do? I mean, what are we trying to achieve by doing the testing is to deliver quality of the product, right? So we don't want, just for the sake of implementation, we just implemented and then just give it to the to the client to use it, or to give it to the end user to use it. But if you guys are getting more quality issues of your system, no one is going to survive in the market because unquality of the product that is being delivered, right? And another part is gain gain confidence from client, right? So what do you mean by to gain the confidence from the client? If I am not delivering a quality of the product, or if I'm not finding any defects in the system, and directly deliver it to the real-time users, whoever customers are going to use my product or the system. If they are getting any issues, obviously, the client will lose the confidence in the market because of a lot of issues that triggering, and client will no more continue with the organization to do a business of the product that whatever we are developing, right? So these are the major things what we basically trying to achieve by doing the software testing. So the first part is, I repeat again, make sure the system is working as expected. And as a tester, you have to find the defects in the system and report them. And as a tester, you guys have to prevent the defect. The second one and third one mostly similar. When you find the defect, which implicitly you are preventing the defects from the end user, right? The fourth point is to deliver the quality of the product. You need to always make sure the quality levels of the system that you guys are delivering it to your client. So once you deliver the quality of the product, obviously you gain the confidence from the client and you would survive in the business, in the market. At the same time, you also can be recommended to other clients that, ABC companies developed my product. They have given extreme nice quality, not much defects in it. I'm very happy, you guys can go ahead, and the client can also recommend as well to get more business to it. That's what exactly the major intention of the software testing. So we just try to understand what is software testing, and then let's look at objectives of software testing. What is the main objective of doing the software testing? So there are, I think, whatever we have discussed here in the document, what we are looking at is more or less same thing, but I'm just marking it as one of the objects. Find the defects which may get created by the programmer while developing the software. So who is developing the software? It is developed by a programmer, right? So programmer or a developer who develops the system or a product, and then as a tester, you need to find the defect. The major intention of doing the software testing is to find the defect. And the second objective is gain confidence in and providing information about level of the quality. You need to provide detailed information to the client, what level of the quality that you guys are delivering it to the client, right? To prevent the defect. We just discussed to prevent the defect from the end users, right? To make sure that the end result meets the business and user requirements. So what I mean to say, business and user requirements, I was mentioning that every product has its own expectations, expected behaviors, right? So we have to make sure that the whatever final end of the product that is being designed or developed is working as per the requirements that are given by the client. And the last objective is to ensure that it satisfies the BRS, that is business requirement specification, or SRS, system requirement specification. So we are talking about the fourth objective is your user requirements, to make sure the end results meets the user requirement. So business requirement document or software requirement or system requirement specification is a document in which we get the in which we get the in detailed information about the requirements. Like an example, when you insert an ATM card, it should first ask for the PIN number. And then when you enter the PIN number, there are two cases here. The case number one, positive case, enter valid PIN and then see what it should do, right? And enter wrong PIN and then see what it should do, right? So you have to check for both the things. So these are the requirements that we generally get it from the client, and all these requirements will be uh, placed in a document, and we call that document as business requirement specification or software requirement specification. In simple term, to say that SRS or the BRS is nothing but a document in which client requirements are being listed out in a particular document. So more or less whatever we have discussed, objectives of software testing is same thing what we just discussed now. Now let's move on for understanding types of software testing. So basically, when we talk about software testing, so we just learned what is software testing and why do we do software testing. Now there are two types of the software testing. One is black box testing, and the second one is white box testing. So let's try to understand what do you mean by a black box testing. Now, as the name itself says, it's a pure black box for me. Now, you guys see here, it's a complete black box. So when I say the black box, nothing is, when I say it's a black box, nothing is visible to us, right? So when we are saying it's a black box, there is a program, executable program that is available inside the box, which is written by a developer. Like say, we were talking that, the developer or the programmer is going to write a code to develop a particular product, right? So we have developed this product and by writing certain program in it, right? So as part of black box testing, so what we basically do, we try to give some input here. You see this input here? We just try to give some input and then it executes some program lines of code based on the input that you guys have provided, and then it provides you the output. So let's make a simple example. So let's go to the same example which we were talking about, ATM. So what I'm doing in ATM machine, I'm just inserting my card. And then what I'm supposed to enter, all are input only. Now you look at what is my first input, inserting the card. And then the second input, what I have to do, I have to enter the PIN number, then enter the correct PIN number. Then what is expected behavior? It should display you certain menu. Now, the third input, what I have to do, I have to choose the option from the menu that is being displayed. Like, I would like to withdraw a certain amount. Then obviously I press the button and I select withdraw button as an input. And then it asks you to enter the amount. Like say I would entering, $8,000. So again, I'm inputting the amount as $8,000. And then what is expected behavior? The system ATM machine should give you the $8,000 as a withdrawal amount to you. Then you take the money. So in this example, if you look at what we are doing, we are always giving certain input. So based on the input, inside the block, inside the box, for me, ATM, I can consider it as a black box for me, right? So when I say ATM is black box to me, which is nothing but nothing is visible to me what is happening inside the ATM machine, right? I even really do not know on which technology the software that is inside the ATM is being developed, right? I really don't know inside the ATM machine what is the code, what is the logic of the code that is being implemented. I even do not know what is the architecture of this particular software or the product based on which it is being developed. So I have no clue. In black box testing, I just input something and I would validate the expected result as your output based on your input. So what is my first input? Entering the PIN number, right? You insert the card and then it asks you to enter the PIN, you enter the PIN. Then it executes a lines of code to validate whether the PIN is correct or not. Then I would enter some $8,000 amount. It executes some lines of the code from the black box and it gives me $8,000 as withdrawal amount here, right? So in this case, I'm really not sure what's happening inside the ATM machine. So in black box testing, in simple term to say that you just give some input and make sure the output is being correctly coming or not, right? So just to read out this, so black box testing treats the system as a black box. So it doesn't, it does not explicitly use knowledge of the internal structure or code. That's what I was mentioning. I really do not know what is the code or what is the structure on which this particular ATM software is being developed, right? Or In other words, the test engineer need not to know, that's what I'm trying to highlight here. The test engineer need not to know the internal working of the black box or the application. So you guys generally do not know internal code or the structure of the system. Without knowing that, you guys go ahead and do the testing here. So main focus in black box testing is on functionality of the system as a whole. So what is my main focus in black box testing? Verify the functionality of the system. So what do you mean by a functionality? So every functionality is nothing but a expected result. Now, what is the functionality? What is the feature of ATM machine? When I enter the correct PIN number, when I select the withdrawal and enter certain amount, it should give me the amount whatever I try to withdraw. As an example, we were talking 8,000. So that's one of the functionality. Every functionality is nothing but in simple term, we can consider it as a feature. So ATM has a feature called withdrawing the money. And ATM has an option to take the deposit of amount also. So these all are the functionalities what we generally consider. So this is about black box testing. So what is white box testing then? So if you guys understand clearly the black box testing, you just reverse it. You just reverse it. It is nothing but your white box testing. So what do you mean by reverse of black box testing? What is happening in black box? You don't know internal structure of the system. You don't know the coding logic that is written in the black box testing, and you don't know the architecture how it is being designed in black box testing. But when it comes to the white box testing, it's not a black box. It turns into the white box. When I say it turns into the white box, so everything is visible to you, which is nothing but you will always have the code, the structure, how it is being designed, and what is the architecture of the system, how it is designed, and what is the logic that is being written in the code. Everything is visible to you. So when I say the white box testing, you guys have to look at the coding and then understand the logic, whatever the logic that is being written here, and then understand the architecture of it. And in order to understand the coding, you need to understand uh, technology as well, on which technology this particular application is being developed. Let's say that the software which we were talking of, the ATM machine, consider it is developed in Java. So in order to do white box testing, what should I do? I have to also know the Java so that I can look at the code and then understand the logic and all the stuff, whatever is relevant to it. So the next question comes to me is, so we learned what is black box and what is white box testing. Now the question is tester is responsible for doing black box testing or white box testing, or tester is responsible for doing both the types of testing? So tester is expected to do both the types of testing, like black box and as well as white box. So the answer is most of the time we do black box testing only, right? So as a tester, you're not dependent on the technology, right? Let's say that you're working for XYZ product, which is for the banking application, and it is developed in Java. You're done with the testing, project is done, and you will move to another project called ABC. And this is again another banking system, but let's say that banking system of ABC client is implemented using the Microsoft technologies. So as a tester, you can't move on learning the different technologies wherever you guys are moving into the different project. So tester's role is do a black box testing as you keep on moving to the different project, and every project will have its own different technologies where it is not possible for tester to learn everything. But no one is going to stop you if you wanted to do the white box testing. Like say, even I'm a tester, but I still know very technically strong in Java, and the project in which you're working is also developed in Java, then you guys are go ahead and use the Java as your, you know, white box testing, because you're already familiarized with the technology on which it is implemented. I hope it's clear types of testing. I'll just recap. We have two types of testing: black box and white box. If you understand the black box, then you also understood the white box. Just reverse the black box, nothing but it's a white box. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So as we talked about today's topic, what is software testing and objectives of software testing, and also we looked at the types of testing. Now try to understand SDLC. So what is software development lifecycle and its phases? So SDLC is nothing but software development lifecycle, which is nothing but, when we talk about the life cycle, right? Every product has its own life cycle, where it starts and where it ends. That's what we are talking about, complete life cycle. So SDLC is nothing but a software development life cycle, which explains about what are the different phases we have and what we do in each phase and who is responsible for each phase of it, right? So let's look at, let me make a note to understand it clearly. So SDLC is nothing but software and it has below phases, right? So what do you mean by a phase? Which is nothing but how it basically starts, and how it moves on to the next phases and where it is going to end. Is it going to end? If so, how it is going to go through the different phases in it. Now the first phase of the SDLC would be requirements gathering, and the second one is converting requirements to SRS/BRS, which we discussed, nothing but software requirement specification or business requirement specification. Then the next phase would be design. We'll talk about in detail of every phase. I'm just listing out what are the phases we have. And then you guys have development slash coding. Then the next one would be testing. And the last one would be the maintenance. So let's try to understand each one of them, in detail. So first part would be the requirements gathering. So what do you mean by a requirement gathering? So requirements gathering is nothing but, now a client comes to us and he says he wanted us to develop a particular product for them, or he wanted to develop as a system for them, right? Now let's say that the client is from the banking industry, and client wanted you guys to develop a system where the customers can go ahead and start using the online banking. So far it's a just bank that started, and they're moving on, making it available for online banking itself. Now the requirement gathering is nothing but, we need to reach to the client, and then have regular connects with the client and understand what exactly the requirements the client is looking for, right? So now client comes back and tells to me that, when I meet the client and client tells me, hey, I wanted to have some features like this. User should have online login ID and password, and user should have a reset pin option. So once user logs in, it should have the features called, like transferring the funds from one bank to another bank. And user should have option to register on a credit card. And user should have an option called, payments of bills through online. And user should also have an option to raise a complaint from the, raise a complaint uh, from the login, whatever the complaint that user is having, right? So these are the different features or the requirements, what exactly client comes back at, right? So you gather all the business requirements rather than requirements. I would just say gather business requirements. So what are you trying to do? You are just going there and gathering all the business requirements, what exactly client is looking for. Now you got, you got at the high level what exactly the requirements, what client is looking for, right? So there are so many features the client is listed out. And the second phase would be converting requirements to SRS and BRS, right? So when I say converting these requirements to SRS or BRS, so which is nothing but what we are trying to do. Client may be telling all the requirements, but it may not possible to implement everything what client is asking due to some technical limitations or due to some other reasons. So whatever is possible from the above requirements which client has given, you need to convert them into the software requirement document, right? So we just talked about SRS. What is SRS? Software requirement specification or system requirement specification. So what we do there, what is SRS? It's nothing but a document in which we write all the requirements. It's not possible to remember all the requirements on the fly, right? So we have to document it, and we call that document as SRS or a BRS document, right? So it's simple to say it's a document in which we place all the requirements in it. Now you got the business requirements, you gathered it, you converted into SRS or BRS, whatever is possible. And then the next step would be design. So what do you mean by a design? So design is nothing but now you got all the requirements of SRS from the SRS, and now it's time for designing the architecture of the system. When I talk about the design, what we are trying to do here, we are trying to design the architecture of the system, how how it should be designed. Once the designing is completed, then it comes, the fourth phase would be the development slash coding. Now architect has come into picture, and he or she is designed the architecture of the system, how it should look like. And then based on the architecture and the requirements, the development team is going to start writing the programming coding to build the system. That would be your fourth phase. So once the developer or a programmer develops it, and then once it is completed, then it will come to the testing team. So that's where we are in. So we are in the testing phase as a tester, like whatever objectives we talked about it, right? So once it is delivered to the testing team, whatever I'm just highlighting here, so you guys have to perform all these activities in the phase called testing. Now, once the testing is done, what is the next phase? The next phase would be the maintenance. So it would go for the maintenance. So what do you mean by a maintenance? Now, the testing team is done testing and all looks good. And as a test manager, you have signed off it, and then we make that particular system, make it available online for people to use it. Now, what was the client? We got some XYZ client from the banking, and the client requested us to develop a system which supposed to allow us for doing the online online transactions, right? So which basically should allow me to do the online transactions. Now let's take an example. Now XYZ product is moved to online, and all the customer bank announces to their customers that, all of you guys got the user ID, register for user ID and password. Please go ahead and start using my online banking, right? So now it's available in the production. When I say production, it is available for the end users who can go ahead and use my, the product that is available on the market for online banking, right? So let's take an example that one of the customer is trying to do a transfer of funds. Let's say he did a funds transfer. Let's say that, customer wanted to, transfer $1,000 from one account to another account, right? Like say that user one wanted to transfer $1,000 to user two. Now he went and logged in and he added user two as a beneficiary, and then he did a transfer of funds by entering the $1,000 in it, right? And the system, what is expected behavior from the system? It should deduct $1,000 from the user one and transfer that $1,000 and deposit $1,000 into the user two account. This is what is expected behavior. So what is happening is amount is deducted, $1,000 from the customer called user one, but it didn't deposit to the user two due to some defect in it or some bug in it. So what user one would do, user one would say that, hey, I just transferred $1,000 to you. Can you please check and confirm it? The user two always says that I haven't received anything. So what you guys do generally, right? We have we call it as maintenance. I would say / support. Now let's say that you guys got the kind of thing what I'm explaining. What you guys would do generally? You guys just go ahead and call to the customer care of the number. So that's where the support team or maintenance comes into the picture. It is not that we tested everything and there will be zero defect in the production. It always happened, right? So you got a defect and one of the customer is impacted. One of the customer is impacted with that $1,000 deducted, but another person supposed to get a deposit, he or she didn't get the deposit in it. So the maintenance and support is nothing but if any issues that are triggering to the end user, whoever is using my product, it is expected that there should be a supporting team to support the end users and resolve the issues what they are getting in. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? You are expected to have a maintenance or supporting team and who has to take the complaint when you call it and register and give the complaint ID or incident ID or ticket ID to the end user and then take it on to resolving it, right? So that's what exactly the maintenance or supporting team to do. So these are the 6 different phases what we have, what we have it in software development lifecycle. Just to recap, it starts with gathering the business requirements and then converting business requirements to SRS or to the BRS, and then go ahead and go ahead and do the design, and then go for development / coding. Once the development is completed, tester comes into it and do the testing, and then make the, because testing is done, all looks good, make it available for end users to use it. And what if end user is getting some issues and some problems or defects in it, then there will be a maintenance team who has to take care about it. Okay. Now we talked about 6 phases of SDLC here, right? So who is responsible for each phase? Can I say only tester can take care of all these roles, 1 to 6 phases, or only developer will take care of all these phases? Now we need to understand that who is Who is responsible for each phase is my question. So we have first step is gathering the business requirement, and second thing is converting requirements to SRS or BRS, right? So who is responsible for these two things is, I would say, it's nothing but a business analyst. So I'm writing it here for 1 and 2. For 1 and 2, when I say 1 and 2, I'm pointing to this number 1, phase 1 and phase 2. I mean to say, for phase 1 and for phase 2, who is responsible? It would be business analyst. So we call it as a BA. In Agile, we call it as product owner, right? In Agile, we call it as a product owner. Then who is responsible for phase 3? We call it as architect. You know, architect would be responsible for the designing. Architect is nothing but a senior most guy, at least around 8 to 10 years of experience in software industry, and who is a senior member. He or she is the guy who is going to design the architecture of the system for phase 3. And for phase 4, who is responsible for phase 4? Developer or a programmer, right? And who is responsible for phase 5? Tester, ourselves. So we are responsible for phase 5, which is nothing but the for phase 5. And who is responsible for phase 6, which is nothing but the maintenance team or supporting team? So in maintenance or supporting team, there are three different levels, right? So we have something called L1, L2, L3. So the whatever, this phase 6, which we're talking about maintenance and support, it's not that as a tester you are done your testing and you released it, then you are done. But it still needed to understand what happens after doing the testing and how the maintenance happens and who is responsible for taking care of support of the product that we have tested and made it available for the end user. So in which we have three people in it, three teams involved. Is one is L1, another one is L2, another one is L3. Level 1, level 2, level 3, what we call. Now, I was just saying that as an example, user 1 transferred $1,000 to user 2, right? Amount is deducted from the user 1, but it didn't credit it, it didn't deposit into the user 2. So as a user, what you will do, you directly take a phone and give a call to the customer care guy. Just mention that, hey, I just did transfer, and amount is still not deposited to my beneficiary to whom I transferred. So the L1 is typically nothing but a call center guy, who is nothing but a call center guy who picks your call, who picks the customer's call and listens to the customer, and tries to understand what the exactly issue is and gathers all the information like what is the bank account number and what is the beneficiary account number to whom you have transferred, all the stuff, whatever the information that is needed for the investigation. This L1 guy, which is nothing but a call center guy, will take all the information from the user. So who is L2 guy here, right? So L2 guy is nothing but once the ticket is being created, right, or incident is being created with all the information that we got it from the customer, is nothing but a analyst. So L2 guy is nothing but a analyst who typically does the analysis of all the issue. Is it really true what customer is trying to say? He gets the account number of the user 1, and as well as he gets the account number of user 2 as well, and then he verifies his amount is really not deposited to account 2. Then He also has to do the analysis. Is it somewhere stuck in the middleware and it taking some time to get it updated? If so, look at how much time it takes, update the ticket and give it back to the call center guy indicating, hey, it is in the process, the amount would be deposited in 1 or 2 days of time. There was some issue due to which it's stuck in the middleware and it would be transferred tomorrow. Just give the ticket. There is no bug here, right? So it is doing the process and it is taking some time for doing the process. We are updating the ticket and giving it back to the call center guy, and call center guy calls to the the user one who has given this complaint and explains that, hey, for there is nothing wrong from your end, what you did is correct, and amount would be deposited into the beneficiary account within 24 hours of time. No worries about that. That's one of the incident. Take the same incident. Amount is really deducted from the user one, but it is not deposited to the beneficiary, which is called user two here, right? So then the analyst does the analysis and finally finds that there is a defect in the system. So this analyst is going to raise a defect and then it comes to the L3 guy. Who is L3 guy again? Developer, whatever we have it in the phase one, right? So developer is the guy who is going to do fixing of the defect, whatever is raised by the L2 guy, analyst. Once analysts do all the analysis, and that analysis would be performed by analyst will come to know that it's a bug in the system. Analyst will just go ahead and raise a bug for that, and the developer is going to fix that. So that's how is all about SDLC, guys, software development lifecycle. So it starts with gathering the business requirement, converting the business requirements into SRS, BRS, and these two phases would be done by the business analyst. And the designing is done by architect, development and coding is done by the developer, and testing is performed by the testing, and the maintenance or support, as just discussed, it is done by three levels: level one, level two, and level three, guys. Yeah, that's what exactly the SDLC lifecycle, whatever we have discussed. So maybe you can even look at the blog, whatever we are mentioning, techtrainersonline.com/blog, and you also get whatever we have discussed. All this information is also available in the blog that is listed out in the below. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. Bye.